PoE patch 3.25 Settlers of Kalguur is here. How then are we going to play the Juggernaut Boneshatter build? Well, you can see it being played here, shattering those bones. I'm going to give you everything you need to know, from gear, gems, jewels, flasks, Ascendancy, Pantheon, Bandits, and everything else. Let's get me out of the way so you can have a good old look how it plays, and I'll be explaining the playstyle to you to get us going. So in the Boneshatter Juggernaut build, we are going to be bonkety bonk 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 everything out of our way. It's not the fastest build in the book, but it's very tanky and smacks things with its big old axe. So it was one of the very true melee builds for a really, really long time. And while there are now many different ones, which you can find on my channel, by the way, Boneshatter is still one of my favourites today. 3.25 has changed pretty much everything with this build. Higher budget is more up in the air at the moment, and I'm not really sure how that's going to end. However, it's looking really great. It's really, really sturdy. It's a really simple and easy to learn build, and genuinely, it's actually quite difficult to get wrong. The only downsides is that it is a true melee, but that's only really if you even consider that a downside. It does have to do mechanics, and it can struggle to get damage going a bit sometimes, but honestly, it is fantastic. So how does it work? Well, of course, the main gem is Boneshatter, and it has a built-in near infinite scaling of damage, assuring, though, that we do have enough attack speed. This does, however, come at the cost of us hitting ourselves increasingly hard as we build more stacks of trauma, and we can sustain this punishment as long as we abuse the innate tankiness provided by our Ascendancy, and that is why we're going for Juggernaut with this build. And that's going to out-regen the damage that we're doing with our trauma, and, well, yeah, that's going to do that and make us tanky, really. The harder we do hit ourselves, the more we regen. Other than that, though, we stack some Impale chants, grab a bit of armor, and go to town. We're further going to abuse the self-harm inflicted on ourselves through the node Inerexible to build up enough endurance charges to keep them up permanently. One other con that I would say, if you can even again call it a con, is that we can't start out at level 1 with Boneshatter. So on the way, we're going to be using, like a lot of my melee builds do, Ground Slam, followed up by Sunder, and then after a few acts, we will then go over to Boneshatter after we do our first Labyrinth for the Ascendancy point. So now let's actually look how we're going to start putting this build together, starting with the gems. Now, like I said in the intro, you can't actually get Boneshatter straight away. So we're going to be going for Ground Slam in Act 1. Ground Slam with Chance to Bleed and Ruthless. We're going to put a War Banner on, you can see then Post Brutus. We're going to change it up a bit with a bit of added fire damage. And then Post Caverns, we're changing things up a little bit again. I've then put an Act 2, 3, and 4 in here. So you can see how we are changing things as we're leveling up, and then basically just ta-da, the final build once we can actually put it all together. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about the, the acts. You can see that yourself. POB is in, of course, the description for you, but this is what we're going. So on the 6th link, we are actually going, of course, with Boneshatter. We're going with Impale, so we can impale our enemies. Brutality, close combat, ruthless, and melee physical damage on there. We are going to put a Leap Slam with momentum, maim, and faster attacks as well, so we can leap around to our targets. And then later, obviously, we've got our Boneshatter of Complex Trauma here. I do really recommend getting this ASAP for this build. It is really, really, really important. This is one of the best things we're going to get in. We're going to be using a few auras in here. We've got Pride, Determination. Oh, yes, we've got Arrogance and Precision. I swear I put Determination in here, but okay, maybe I didn't. And then we've got War Banner. Yeah, War Banner and Vulnerability there as well. So we've got a few auras that we have got in here. One that you might wonder about is why we're using Precision and Arrogance here together. So due to our precise technique, we can't actually scale our critical strikes. Or sorry, our critical strikes. I'm going crazy. So basically, we're just using Precision for some extra accuracy instead. I think this is just a better way to get around that kind of nuance of the build. And then on your Blood Rage with Life Tap and Cast when damage taken, we have that on our gloves here as well. Apart from that, we've just got Arctic Armor and Flesh and Stone. I would stay in Sand stance with this for the 20% reduced damage taken. Now moving on to the gear, the flasks, and any jewels that we're going to be having. TLDR, there are new jewels on this build. So we're going for Rare Helm on the headpiece. We're pretty much just going for life roll and resistances. I think one thing that people often overlook in PoE is their resistances. The game is built around having a very high amount of resistances. Over 75, looking to hit those elemental resistance caps. Boneshatter Juggernaut is no different, especially in patch 3. So you do want to get some chaos resistance after that as well. So pretty much just armor, life, and resistances on your helm is what you're going to want, and anything else that you can get. Glorious Plate is going to be really useful on the chest piece. Again, high armor, high life is going to be really good. Remember that we are using our trauma gem, and then we're actually getting that life back, etc. It's kind of like doing damage to ourselves, etc. And high life and armor is really going to help with this. And again, preferably more resistances like you can see here as well. Now, the Tanu Ahi on the gloves are phenomenal on this build, by the way. They are absolute best in slot. Increased attack speed, armor and evasion, physical damage and leech. 10% chance to gain adrenaline for 2 seconds when leech is removed by filling unreserved life. And a 10% chance to gain onslaught for 4 seconds when the same thing happens. So it gives us basically adrenaline and onslaught, which are both insanely strong in this build. If later on you get like a really good craft on gloves, they may surpass them, but like honestly, these are absolutely fantastic. On the boots, Titan Greaves or Death's Door, these are going to be really good for you. You know, you've got strength, armor, energy shield here, elemental resistances, movement speed, of course, endurance, and increased elemental ailment duration to you. But bleeding cannot be inflicted on you, which is, of course, fantastic. The Magnate on the belt is really the only contender. 10% chance to deal double damage when you have at least 200 strength, and 5% chance to deal triple when you have 400 strength here are the main. The fact that it then has some elemental resistances on here is just, oh my god, chef's kiss. The triple and double strength damage done is absolutely bonkers for this build. It's just absolutely a whole nother level. Then on rings, we're really just going for like amethyst rings. The reason why, fantastic strength, life, and resistances on these. It is just absolutely, again, really good. You can see the resistances we've got up here on this build, 80, 80, 80, and 17% chaos. We're doing really good on our resistances there. And on our weapon, we're just going for physical damage and attack speed, pretty much. Lastly, I don't think I've gone through the amulet yet. Carnage Heart on here. Attributes, resistances, and again, some more increased damage while leeching on there. Lastly, on the flasks, I'm going for granite, sulfur, quicksilver, basalt, and then just a life flask. Finally, nothing too excited on there. Consecrated ground, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's really not that in depth for the flasks on this build. And again, there is a POB link in the description. And lastly then, let's look at things like Pantheon, Ascendancy, and what to do about the Bandits. So obviously we are going Juggernaut in this one. Number 1 on our list is going to be Undeniable. So we're going to go armor and attack speed first, then up to Undeniable on Juggernaut. 500 to accuracy rating, 1% increased attack speed per 150 accuracy rating, and you're going to gain accuracy rating equal to twice your strength. After that, we're going to Unflinching. First, you're going to get a little bit of armor, endurance, and charge duration. So Unflinching, 30% chance to gain endurance charge when you are hit. 25% chance that if you would gain an endurance charge, you instead gain up to maximum endurance charges. And gain an endurance charge every second if you've been hit recently. TLDR, lots of endurance charges. Then we are going to Untiring, 15% increased armor and regenerate some life as well. That's going to help with the trauma, getting back the life. And Untiring, 40% increased life regenerate, 1.5% of physical damage prevented from hits in the past, and 10 seconds of regenerated as life per second. So again, with all that trauma, this is really going to help regen some life back. Lastly, it's going to be armor and chaos resistance, and then Unbreakable. Armor from equipped body armor is doubled, hence why we've got that big one on our chest there, and then 15% of armor also applies to chaos damage taken from hits as well. Fantastic on this build for getting some chaos resistance. For the Bandits, we want the passives, so we're killing everyone. And then for the Pantheons, it's going to be the Soul of Arakali, and this is going to help in mitigating degens And on minor, it's the soul of a bearer for all of that ignite, burning ground, etc. that we can then not have to worry about as much. And that is pretty much it for how we're going to play Juggernaut Boneshatter in 3.2 Settlers of Kalguur. Hope you did enjoy this build guide, guys. If you're looking for other build guides, check out this playlist here. I'm doing quite a lot for this patch. And if you would like to support the channel, please do consider also joining the Patreon.